Hi, welcome to Teaching Moments. I'm Hillary. All right, so the video I'm going to do today has been a long time in the making. I'm going to do a review for you on a curriculum that I got called 42 Electronics. I knew when I bought the curriculum that I was going to do a review on it because when I looked up reviews, I didn't find anything except for the things that the people had made who made the curriculum. And I like to get other people's perspectives too, so I knew I wanted to do a review on this. I haven't looked since recently to see if there's any more on there yet, but I'd like to do this review for you. So I'm going to give you the story of my experience from beginning to end, and then at the end I will tell you a few more pros and cons that I might not have mentioned through my stories, okay? Okay, so in case you don't know me, I am a homeschool mom of 4 children. Right now they're ages 10 through 19. So my oldest one has graduated from high school just recently. My second child is a son, and he was in 8th grade last year. He was 13 and turned 14. And for several years, I could tell that he has been interested in like robotics and programming, electronics, coding, that kind of thing. And so I've been looking for a curriculum for years that would be able to speak to that part of him just like at a beginner level so that we can see if this is really something he's interested in or if it's not going to be of interest to him. So I got to look in and wow, I mean, there's a lot of things out there, but it's hard to find things like at beginner level. And I thought about going with like a club, maybe a co-op. I couldn't really find a lot of those out there. I found like a Lego club where Lego has some things that have motors in it and things like that. And so I wanted to put them in a Lego club, but I found out the one I was looking into was rather expensive and it was super hard to get into because they filled up so fast. Like as soon as there was openings, bam, they were gone. And so at the time we just couldn't afford that and it didn't work out for us. And so I just kept looking. And finally I found one that said 42 Electronics. Well, let me back up. First of all, when I realized I couldn't get into a club or a co-op, I was like, I'm gonna have to do this myself. We're gonna have to find a curriculum. But I know nothing. I know nothing about that area. So I was super intimidated to teach him this when I don't even know diddly from it. And so I was like, I don't know what to do. And so I was looking into it, found 42 Electronics. They said you don't need any experience whatsoever to teach this. And I looked at it several times. I'm like, okay, it says no experience needed. That it also said it was for any ages, that it was okay. And my husband, however, he does have experience. He was in the Air Force and he worked on the radios and the planes and some other electronic things. He's in the audio video and for his career. And so he knows about electronics. He knows, he does a computer, he does the technology stuff, like the help desk stuff. So he does know on this. So he can help point me in the right direction. However, he's not the person who usually teaches the kids. There's just a different skill set to teaching our children. And so I thought, well, this curriculum says we don't need any experience. And if I could have my husband kind of back me up that, yes, I told them that right, or no, I didn't, or if I could at least ask him to explain it to us, then once I understand it, I can explain it to the kids in more simple wording, make sure that they are understanding what he's saying. So I was like, okay, no experience necessary. Hubby's gonna help me. So I did it. I took the plunge. I went and did it. So I bought the curriculum. And when I told my other kids about it, because he was going to be in 8th grade at the time, and I figured that maybe I could put it on his transcript, because even though the transcript is for 9th through 12th grade, sometimes if you do something in 8th grade that could qualify, you can put that on the transcript and it can help to look good for their transcript. So that was my intentions also in doing this for him for 8th grade. Well, when my daughter found out, my oldest, who just graduated, so that was her senior year, she said, Mom, I've always kind of been interested in some of that stuff too. I would like to do it too. I'm like, great, we'll just stick you two together. Love it when I can put more than one child in a class, helps me out time-wise, energy-wise. It just helps out so much. I highly recommend you do that. So I'm like, fine, we'll have both of you be in it. Okay, so we have an 18-year-old girl who's a senior, and I had an 8th grade boy who was 13, turned 14 within that year, okay? So I bought the curriculum, and they have it in levels. They have levels A, B, C, and now they have D. I don't know if they had D when we bought it. So we bought it. It was in 2019 that I was looking at it, and by the time we purchased it and got it, we got it right before the pandemic hit, so it was early March when it was sent to us. I wasn't planning on using it until the next school year because I always buy my curriculum months before I actually use it. So I didn't use it until that fall we started. The lessons are broke down into lessons 1 through 8 is on wiring, breadboards, and circuits. And then they have lessons 9 through 15, which are on coding and Raspberry Pi. And then they have lesson 16, which is on the breadboard and the Raspberry Pi. So kind of getting the beginning lessons and the ending lessons and putting it together in that last lesson. And that's just level A, okay? So that was what I was planning on doing. And I gave myself a full year to teach that because I wasn't sure with having 4 kids and doing the schedule for 4 kids, because all my kids have dyslexia, so I have to give more one-on-one attention to everybody to make sure everybody's comprehending everything correctly. So I have to stretch myself very thin sometimes, and so I wasn't sure how much time. I tried to do 2 to 3 times a week to give my attention to these lessons. So that's how that worked. So the first 8 lessons on wiring, breadboards, and circuits, I felt went pretty well. To me, they made sense. We had the breadboard there. They showed us how to put the wires in, and we ended up making using switches and buttons and lighting up LEDs. And they were good. So my daughter, through my daughter's eyes, she said she understood it, but she was a little bit bored because she felt like they were very wordy. Also though, a tip I would give is to make sure that your student has a healthy interest in this topic, or they will get bored and they won't want to continue on. But my son, he understood it and he really liked lessons 1 through 8. He got it, he was getting it, he was able to go, oh, okay, I understand what they're saying and where I need to put these wires, and he did well. Okay, but lessons 9 through 16, okay, so that was we started that. So the first 1 through 8 lessons was in the first semester. And then lessons 9 through 16, the rest of the book was in the second semester. Actually, might have been around Christmas time, but close anyway. That was around the time my daughter started having some health issues, some pretty big health issues to where she wasn't able to function on a normal day-to-day basis. So at that point, she had fulfilled her requirements for the subject that we were trying to do at that time anyway. So she had ended up just not continuing the lessons. So she only did the first 8 lessons. And then I dismissed her because her health issues were, we just needed to focus on the very core subjects, that the rest that she needed for her to finish her school year out. So here I'm left with just my son, who's I think 14 by this time. And we're doing lessons 9 through 16. So he thought this part was difficult. So remember, this part was learning about Raspberry Pi and about coding. So he didn't really feel like he learned a lot there. Like, he heard the lessons. I was reading to him because he's a profoundly dyslexic, and when they've got big concepts going on, I prefer to read that to them. But then obviously I would ask him the questions and see how much he retained, and we would go through it together. This is mainly the first part. I didn't really need to bring my husband in hardly at all, just a few times. The second part, I needed to bring my husband in quite a bit, and I was like, what are they saying, or am I saying this right, so that he could help us out. So my husband didn't feel like my son didn't feel like he really learned it well enough that he could start coding or doing Raspberry Pi. I think they were trying to just give us an idea in level A, but I'm not sure their goal was to actually let them be able to code by themselves by the end. If they were, we didn't get that. So I'm hoping that levels B and C, because they say by level D, they're able to make their own robot. But he was not even close to that point. at the time. So, but he did learn some jargon. He learned the language of it. He kind of understood what the coding was about, what the symbols were. I mean, at least he got introduced to that stuff. So that we did. So we also found out later, which I'll give that story of how I found that out in just a minute. But we found out later that there are videos coming out. When I bought this, they did not have videos. So it was strictly reading from the text, the lessons to him, or when they're older, if they're not profoundly dyslexic, they can read it themselves and do the lessons themselves. But since then, they have come up with videos. So you don't have to do that part for your child. You can just have them watch the videos. We've been grandfathered in since we bought this before the video option. And so we were grandfathered in. So we did have access to the videos now. And we just went through it as I was trying to write up what I was going to say in my review. And my son didn't feel like the videos would have helped him a whole lot anyway. I don't know. It was just a little bit more difficult, maybe. So we tried the few videos, didn't feel like it helped him he had a hard time keeping his attention when he hears some things that he doesn't quite understand. Sometimes he just floats off and you got to draw him back. But I can't always tell when he does float off. He's very quiet. And so I couldn't tell. But he didn't feel like it would help his attention span any better than me reading to him. The activities in these lessons, they can take a lot of time. So you need to plan accordingly. So yes, they give a lesson, so you read them or they watch the video, and then they have some activities. And there's usually more than one activity, and those activities can take a long time, especially if you have someone that's slower or someone, I don't know, my son was a bit slower in the way that he went, and so that expanded the time that we took for the activities. I don't think it's just that though. There was a lot. And I guess you don't have to do all the activities in one day, but sometimes it's nice while we have everything out to just do it while it's all out. But you need to plan accordingly to your schedule to be able to dedicate like at least an hour to this class at the end, towards the end of the book. The beginning, when it has the breadboards, you don't need that much time. But at the end here, you did need more time. Let's see, what else? Okay, so my husband, we can drink water. My husband wasn't fond of the lessons. He felt that there was too many steps in the activities. Just like I said, the activities were pretty long and there was a lot of steps to it. I do have an example of one. For example, one of the activities, they gave some wrong steps on the first time of coding to show you why it was invalid. And my husband didn't like that at all. He said he felt they should have taught you how to do it the correct way first, because if they teach you the wrong way first, then it's like you have to reteach everything that you were just learning, rather than just teaching it correct the first time. And so he didn't like that. He felt like it was too much brain power for someone who was on an entry level. And I can understand where he was coming from there. Okay. So that was the process we went through. And then we got to the end, finished it up. So let me give you some pros and cons that I didn't mention and tell you another couple stories that I didn't mention. So first of all, when you buy the levels, you will get a box. You will get a box of components. Let me grab level A. Here we go. I got a box of components, and inside there are things like the wires, the LEDs, the Raspberry Pi, the ribbon cable. We ended up using a handy dandy little container to store all of this in because they all came in little baggies. So we ended up using a container like this. There's the breadboard to be able to store these things in. And that was far nicer to use than just pulling them out of the box all the time. But so you get that for your components. But there are some things that are not in the kit that you need. For example, the lessons 9 through 16, you need a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, and an internet connection which isn't too big of a deal, but I was not prepared for all of that. And I had to find an extra monitor, an extra keyboard, which, you know what, it worked out fine because, like I said, my husband's an AV guy and an IT guy. And so he had all that extra stuff downstairs that we were able to use for our classroom. But we didn't put the computer together and then just leave it sit somewhere. We had to like take it down each time because we put it on our dining room table. So that was a little bit of a pain. We ended up putting it in a tub, and then we dragged the tub out a few days later and we needed to use it again. So, and again, then you can see why when you need to use the activities, if you've got a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse out, you kind of want to just get through all the activities. And sort of when you're doing the coding and all those things, you don't want to stop in the middle of an activity because one activity leads to the next activity. So once you've done this, now you're ready to do these things and learn, to work on this aspect of the lesson that we were doing. So they do take a lot of time, and you do kind of just want to get through all the activities in that lesson if you can. Let's see here. Okay, so they say it's for any age, but I would say that it's strictly for high schoolers. Maybe an advanced middle schooler, if they're totally into that kind of stuff, that it would be okay for them. But otherwise, I would just stick to high schoolers. There is no way the elementary kids, at least my elementary kids, are going to get that stuff very well. They're not going to understand it, or, yeah, it's just going to be kind of wordy and bigger words. And it seemed like they were trying to show you different aspects and introduce you to so much at one time, when I felt like they could have filtered out some of that stuff, because they would tell you something and be like, okay, sometimes people use this or that, but we're not going to use that. We're just going to use this. I kind of wish they just would have told you in level A, okay, let's just do it this way. And then maybe in level B say, okay, there's another way to do it. It was just too much at one time, I felt like, and it was very wordy how they were trying to explain it. I think they were trying to be very careful and cover everything, but I just kind of felt like it was a lot. Let's see here. So I would say just for high schoolers. Yeah, the basic info would have been better for just the beginners. On the positive side, they have really good customer service. So let me say this. When a company has really good customer service, I love it, because even if you have problems with their curriculum, have problems with shipping or ordering or whatever you might have to deal with a company, if they have good customer service, 9 times out of 10, I will probably go back to that company. 8 times out of 10. They have to have a decent product too. But if it's manageable for me to be able to talk to them and work something out with them, that's going to be awesome. But if they have someone that's not so great on the other end of the line, then yeah, I'm just going to say goodbye to that company really quick. But I would say they have good customer service. I wouldn't say great, but I would say good, because we dealt with them a few times. So let me give you an example. One of the times, it was during one of the lessons, somewhere in the middle there. I think it was during an early coding lesson. We had a problem. So we emailed the company, and they responded in a timely manner with suggestions of how to fix it. Well, we had figured it out for ourselves, but they were kind and they offered help if we needed again. Like I said, they were very quick and getting back to us and very friendly. So I love that they were so quick on that. Okay, I have another story for you. So this is where, so I told you that I ordered my curriculum earlier, and then I didn't do it till the fall. So of course I'm working on the fall and working through it through that whole school year to figure things out. Well, what had happened was we had got this curriculum. We decided we didn't really like it. It wasn't really a fit for our family. I didn't like the way to teach it, and my husband didn't really like some of the lessons either. So if he's not going to be able to help me as much, yikes, I didn't really like that so well. So we have 2 younger children. However, I wasn't sure that I was going to use it for them if I wasn't really fond of the curriculum. So I wanted to return it. So I had contacted the company. They said we could not have a full refund because it had been like over a year since we had given it to them. I think something about the credit card or something, but they could probably give me a partial refund. That is the time when they told me about the videos that were just about to come out and that I would be grandfathered in. They said, maybe you should just wait and see if the videos work for you. And if they don't, we can still give you a partial return. But if they do, then you're good to go. So, so we waited for the videos, and I just guess I decided in the meantime that we were probably just going to go ahead and keep it because we do have 2 younger children. And also, so since my husband could use some of the components that we would be returning, he can use some of those components to do just tinker around with or fix things that he needed to. We decided that we would just go ahead and keep it. Plus, maybe it would work better for one of the other younger kids. I'm not really sure. But we just decided to keep it. We thought it might be more of a hassle to try to return it. So we just let it be. But the good thing is that they were willing to work with us, even though we couldn't get a full refund. And they were willing to try to help us get at least a partial refund. So that was what I saw that was good. And that they were also willing to grandfather us into seeing the videos. So also on a positive side is they used to have a Facebook page where you can go in and ask questions, and they would give you an answer, or ask other users the questions to see if anybody else has run into the same problem. And that was really cool. That was to see that going on. But since then, they have changed the format of the way they do it, and instead they call it an online classroom. And it looks like they still use Facebook to do it, but it's a little bit different. And it was going to benefit the company better because then they would be alerted to everybody's questions. I think maybe they were having some problems with Facebook actually alerting them quick enough for them to respond. They're doing it to try to help improve their relationship with their people who had ordered it. So I can see why they were trying to benefit from it, but I haven't dabbled with it much since they changed formats. But at least we know something is out there that you can just get on and talk to other people or 42 Electronics, and somebody will answer you quickly to let you know how it's going. So that is a good thing that they have that too. Let's see, where am I here? So another thing that was a negative side is that they give you a just a file for the curriculum. So they I think they emailed it to me. Again, it was over a year since I had gotten it, but they just the curriculum is on my computer. I don't have a physical turning page curriculum unless you decide to print it out, which is what we did, because I was like, yeah, that's not working for me. I don't have laptops. I'm here sitting in my schoolroom and I have books everywhere. I'm a very much old school textbook. I need the pages. Let's open the books and read them. We don't do as much schooling on the computer. There's some options to do some, but I'm just an old school girl, I guess. So I like the paper. So we did print it out and put it in a binder. So as you can see here, aim for 3 times a week. Yes, do aim for 3 times a week. Here's level A. There's the tabs that show each lesson. Level 1 lesson, and then lesson 2, resistors and LEDs. So it was nice that we were able to get it printed out on a color page, but it was time consuming and it was a little bit expensive to print it all out, especially to get the colored pages rather than black and white ones, because we only have we have a color printer. It's just our color ribbons are out and we haven't replaced them, I guess. So, but, so we printed all of ours out. So I didn't like the fact that it was only you didn't have a book copy, but we remedied that quickly. So that was another thing I didn't like. Let me see if I got all the points I wanted to get. So all in all, I would say this curriculum was not really a fit for us or my family, for my son. I think even had my daughter continued to go on, I don't think she was interested enough to really care about the coding. And you really need your brain to be ready to go, to understand the coding. It is like learning a new language, and you need to sit and really figure it out. And if you're not really into it, you're not going to understand it as well. So it just wasn't a very good fit for us. I still am on the hunt for something to be able to teach more about robotics or electronics, or my son would like to be able to make his own video game. He's already given me ideas of a video game, and they're great. I love them, but we need to be able to give him the tools to understand how to be able to make that process happen. So if you guys have a really good curriculum, out there, or resource of a place maybe that teaches kids, and either elementary, middle school, and high school. Because some of them I've seen also are just for the younger kids, and then some of them are just for older kids, but I kind of have people in the middle there. So it'd be nice to be able to fit all the ages. So if you guys have suggestions of good curriculum for that, I would love to hear it, because I've been on the hunt for a few years, and I don't know. So there you go. I hope that this review has helped you out a lot. Again, just because it wasn't a fit for me doesn't mean it wouldn't be a fit for you guys. It was, I hate giving bad reviews, but it's my honest opinion. So there you go. And I hope that this has helped you. And take care. Thank you for watching.